the fine line between genius and insanity. And my dad was kind of walking that tightrope. When I was 20, he took his own life. There was no warning and traumatizing. Obviously, it turned my life around. Grief's an ongoing process. It's not something that's gone forever. We want to do something to help remember our dads, and we thought, what better way than to climb to the highest freestanding mountain in the world, one of the most highest points that you can get to on Earth.
Jordan, can you tell me please about your dad and why did he pass away?
Yeah, so my dad was my best friend, I would say. And we had some, obviously we didn't get along with everything. There were some things that we would quarrel about and stuff like that, but he was one of my best friends. And he was kind of a musical genius. He was the most talented guitar player I've ever met. He was a classical music composer, an incredibly talented pianist, and just a great person and a great parent. But I think with all genius, there's the fine line between genius and insanity. And my dad was kind of walking that tightrope pretty finely, I would say. He was sort of bordering on musical genius, but then some days he'd just be an absolute crazy character, very eccentric. But I loved him, and I had a great childhood. Him and my mum separated when I was young, but they still had a great relationship, and I still had a good relationship with my mum and with my dad. And suddenly, and without expectation, without any notice or anything like that, when I was 20, he took his own life. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to talk about that. Not because I think I have all the answers, but because I think that if one person can hear my story and feel better about their story, or if one person can hear my story and relate to it in some way, I know that can be incredibly powerful. And I know myself, because when this happened to me, one of the things that got me through it was speaking to my friends and having some people share their stories with me. And that can be so powerful. So that's why.
That's why we're here today. Yeah. Thank you so much. Did you have any warning that it's going to happen, or were you taken by surprise? What was your reaction when it happened?
Well, I was taken by surprise. So there was no warning. And the thing is with grief, and when something completely changes your world like this, if you're not prepared for it, and if you don't know that it's coming, it's very difficult to know what to do and how to react.
Were you prepared?
No, not at all. So obviously it was traumatizing. Obviously it turned my life around in one split moment. And I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to do at first. My mind was just such a mess. It's my whole life had been put through some sort of mince churner, and my life had just been churned up and then spat back out and then flipped upside down again and then lit on fire and then frozen. It was all these feelings arose at once. So actually the first thing I did, looking back now, it seems pretty crazy, but the first thing I did was I went into the living room and I just put on some TV program or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but just something just to
distract.
Something to distract, to numb the feelings, just to take me away for a split moment. And I was even laughing at it. And at the time, I remember that night, I was thinking back and I was kind of ashamed of myself. I was thinking to myself, why did I do this? Why would I react in this way? It's so odd, it's so strange. But I know now, looking back, having studied those feelings and felt those feelings and delved into those feelings, I know that it was just a young man who was confused.
And you were only 20 when it happened.
I was 20, I just turned 20. And my sister was younger, she just turned 18. So it was another thing I was worried about my family, I was worried about everything really. It was incredibly difficult.
But were you angry at him? Because when somebody took their life away, there is also part that being slightly selfish in a way, thinking about yourself, but what about the others, like you, your sister, your mom? So were you angry at your dad for taking his life at this moment?
I just felt all kinds of different emotions. Anger was one of them. And they say the stages of grief, they say a denial, anger, bargaining, a depression, and then finally acceptance. So they're the 5 classic stages of grief. And they don't come all at once, and they don't come they don't always come linearly. Mm-hmm. They can come in different orders, different shapes and sizes. But anger was definitely an emotion that I felt, yeah.
Where are you now in this spectrum, do you think?
Well, now I feel like I've developed a sense of acceptance, and I actually feel that, and it's been a long process, but I feel, especially in the past year, 2 years, I feel very, very at peace with everything that's happened. And I feel like everything that happened has led me to this moment, and I'm proud to see my sister doing well. Mm. I'm proud to see my family doing well, and I'm trying to live in such a way that I try to envision my father's spirit in me and live in a way that would make him proud. And so, yeah, I feel like I've reached acceptance, but there are still times when these other feelings come back. Grief's an ongoing process. It's not something that's gone forever,
So
and that's
how
it.
do you deal when those demons come back to you?
There's several ways. One of the big ways is making sure you're in a positive environment. That's so important. Like a friend of mine, a really good friend, very wise lady once said, there are two types of people in the world: drains and radiators, people who radiate energy and people who drain your energy. I have to make sure, and I have to be very conscious about the time that I spend with certain people. Because if I spend my time with too many people who to me are draining and bring me down and absorb my energy, then that just leads to negative feelings, and it leads me to come out of that sense of acceptance and back into the other stages. But if I spend my time with positive people doing positive things, people who radiate energy, then that makes a world of difference. Also the environment that I'm in. That's one of the reasons I'm here. It's one of the reasons I went and been off on some of the other adventures that I've been on, because I had to be in that environment. If I stayed in England and I stayed in that environment where everything was defined by this moment of grief, then I would have found it very difficult to have evolved and moved on. So friends, environment, and also like just looking after yourself as well. I think looking after yourself is so important. Like if you start to self-destruct and do things that take away from your sense of well-being, that has such a massive effect on the way that you deal with grief. So I have to be pretty religious in the way that I look after myself, like mentally and physically and stuff like that, daily, yeah.
What are your routines, your good habits to keep yourself on a radiating mood?
Yeah, well, it might sound a bit silly, but a simple one: drink loads of water, hydrate, dominate.
Yes.
Right? Just things like that. Eat loads of vegetables, health is wealth. Talk more and open up about things that are difficult. And also talk more and open up more about things that you're proud of and things that make you feel good. Having these positive conversations. Opening up and sharing with others doesn't always have to be about negativity and about these kinds of problems and challenges that we've overcome. We can also share about things that we're proud of. A lot of people, they struggle to actually share about the things that they're proud of. And I find it so amazing to speak to my friends and hear them share about the things that they're doing that they're proud of, that they think they're doing amazingly. Because when you start to talk about that, it feeds into this bundle of energy, this positivity, and it can affect other people. If you share with me something that you're doing that's positive, like interviewing all these interesting people around Saigon, that to me sparks a little seed of inspiration. And that little seed of inspiration could then lead to me inspiring someone else through another good deed. So things like that, you know, converse more, yeah, conversate to get rid of the hate, you know. I like rhymes.
So many quotes too.
Yeah, I like rhymes. Yeah. What else have we got? Movement as well, just daily movement. Motion is lotion. That's another one. Just simple things like that, right? But I think like the point is I had to grow up a lot when this happened because I had two choices. My first choice was I was at university when this happened. So one of the first, and I thought about this consciously at the time. I thought option number one, I drop out of university and I leave my job and I go home to give myself time to recover spiritually and emotionally and all that. But in doing that, I know that I would have put myself in an environment where I was constantly reminded of this grief and I wouldn't have been doing anything with my day. So I would have just been lingering on my thoughts. So my other option was to carry on with life and to continue looking after myself and to continue doing things, which isn't easy. It's not as simple as just saying it and doing it. Like it took time and it took friends to sort of kick my ass into shape sometimes and help me out and stuff like that. But I think making that choice to continue with life and live in a way where you're looking after yourself is so helpful. Because if you look after yourself, if you don't look after yourself, how can you look after others? If you don't take care of yourself, there's no way that you can then be there for others when they need you. So I think that's the most important thing, looking after yourself.
And after all these years, what's your relationship to your dad?
At first, the first year, I avoided a lot of the feelings. And so I didn't think about it very much. I kind of numbed it. It's one of the reasons I moved away, because I wanted to escape, which long term wouldn't have worked. It would not have been successful. But at the time, it's what I needed to do. I needed to get away and be in a different environment. But after a while, I eventually went home and sat with the feelings and spent some time reading about grief, spent some time looking through photos, organising things from his house and things like that, visiting family members and talking about things. And since then, my relationship is like this. I feel like my dad's in me. That's the way I believe it. I think that everything I do, all of my actions, all of my words, everything, he's there along for the ride and he's living through me. And so whether that's true or not, to me, I have to believe that to be able to keep living the way that I'm living and to be able to continue to do things that fulfill me. I have to do that. And it gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment. It makes every action I do and every decision I make, it gives it that underlying reason and meaning. So it's very important for me to think that way. So he's living through me. And so this summer, my friend Ben and I, who's a very good friend of mine from back home, he also lost his father to cancer last year, I think, or 2 years ago. And his dad knew my dad knew his dad. He and I have been friends for years. And so we went on a holiday together last year and we decided we want to do something to help remember our dads. And we thought, what better way than to climb to the highest freestanding mountain in the world, one of the most highest points that you can get to on Earth, to raise some money for some charities related to our father. So I'm raising money for the Samaritans, which is a UK-based mental health charity that helps with suicide prevention and mental awareness strategies to help reduce suicide and things like that. And he's raising money for Yorkshire Cancer Research. And so we're doing that in 2 months. What date is it? The 10th. 2 months today, we should have just summited. So I'm really excited about that. And I think the feeling that we get when we're at the top, when we're at this high point, close to the heavens, like close to the clouds, that's going to be, I'm very much, I don't want to think about it too much because whenever I go into anything, I try not to place too many expectations on it. But I am very much looking forward to that moment. And especially doing it together with someone who I consider a brother, like Ben. So yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, big shout out to Ben. And you can check, we have a page where on this page we have our story, Ben's story on one page, my story on the other, and you can read that. And
we're going to put it in the link.
Brilliant.
You guys can see it in the YouTube description.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Jordan, it's so beautiful to have you here, to hear you talking with so much wisdom and honesty about this tragic event that happened. I think your dad could be very proud of you for doing all these actions, like living the way you live, just embodying such a positive source of energy that you are. And my question is, for those who are experiencing grief, can be in different ways, right? What would be your one piece of advice?
Well, one of the things I would have said, I spoke about it already, so I'll just touch on it, is environment and people. So important. If you have the right people by your side, they can help you get through anything. And if you're in the right environment that fosters love and you know when you're in that environment, it just feels right. That's massive. The other thing is time is your best friend. Someone said that to me who'd been through something similar. And at first I thought, I didn't really listen to him, but deep down it resonated with me. And now looking back, that was a big piece of advice that helped me. Time will be your best friend. It might feel like you're at rock bottom. It might feel like your whole life has been completely flipped upside down. And this, no matter what it is, it could be someone dying, it could be a relationship's ended, it could be you have some sort of addiction, whatever it is, time will make a big difference. So that'd be a big piece of advice that I would say. Also, don't be afraid at any stage on your grieving journey to seek professional help. That helped me massively. It took me 2 years to seek it. I wasn't ready for it in the initial stages. I wasn't ready to talk. But once I got to the position where I was ready to talk and I knew that I needed to talk to someone, seeing a professional was so helpful. I only went for, I think, 3 or 4 sessions with a psychiatrist. She was brilliant. She's like this 80-year-old American lady called Virginia, based up in Hanoi. And she was so good. And I say she was so good. She didn't say much. It's a bit like you and me now, just having a conversation, really. It's just like chatting, but she asked the right questions and helped me see some things that I needed to see. So seeing a professional, don't be afraid of that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That can be so, so powerful.
How did this event change your personality and change your vision of life?
Well, it changed it a lot. So number one was I had to mature a lot very fast. I was very childish before this happened. And so, because it was mainly because I had a younger sister, because I'm the oldest and I had a younger sister, I wanted to be the example and the role model for her. I did not want anything to happen to her. I didn't want her life to be ruined because of this. So I thought, I need to be strong, I need to keep living, and I need to set a good example by being a mature adult, basically. So that was a big thing. And then also it just brought into reality the fact of mortality, the fact that we're all going to die, and that all of our family members are going to die, and all of our friends. And that sounds a bit...
That's true.
It's true, but I didn't realize that. Like, obviously I knew that was true, but when I was growing up, I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, other people die, or other people have these problems. And it wasn't a real... It didn't exist to me. It wasn't there. And it made me realize that everything's impermanent. And so once I realized this, it took some time to get to this stage, but like now I really try and focus on appreciating the good things, even if they're just small things, and not tripping yourself up when you're running downhill or running downwind. And by that, I mean, when things are going well, when things are going good, enjoying it and embracing it, because it's not going to last forever. It's not going to be rainbows and sunshine forever. You're always going to have difficulties. It could be an injury, it could be an illness, it could be a friend moves away, it could be a death like this, it could be anything. So for me, it really made me want to appreciate the small things in life, which is an ongoing process. Again,
but being in the now is the main thing.
I think so, yeah. Being in the now and appreciating those little things that are good. Not complaining, it's hard because we all get into this mode of complaining about little things and sometimes about first world problems and stuff, especially when I go home, because like I'm living in Vietnam, often I'm in the countryside, and so you get used to bugs, you get used to toilets that don't work properly, you get used to bum guns that aren't working properly, you get used to all these little things, you get used to food that's kind of weird and you're not sure if you want to eat it. So when I go home, people complain about like the smallest first world problems, and that's fine because that's just the way it is. And if I go back home for long enough, that happens to me as well. But I think this dealing with grief made me realize that actually all these little things that we complain about, they're not that bad at all.
There are no problems.
No, it's really, and that resilience is very important, I think.
Jordan, according to you, what do we need to know when we have not been in this state of grief? Because like you said, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So how can we prepare ourselves in the most healthy and easy way?
It's a tough question. I remember you sent that to me before. So it's a tough question because it's very hard to generate resilience and train resilience, because I think that's the key skill here, resilience and being able to bounce back from difficulty and strength. It's very difficult to accumulate that without having gone through pain. I think pain is the main way that we grow in terms of our strength. So one thing you could do, and there's a lot of people who talk about this, is like controlled states of discomfort. You know, like some people do ice baths, some people do hard exercise.
We had Tracy here that mentioned about, the ice bath.
He was talking about that. And that's physical pain. That's being able to control physical pain. And there are many ways. I could list off a bunch of ways. But I think some way to strengthen your ability to deal with uncomfortable situations. One of the ways that I like to do that personally, and this will be it'll be different for everyone, is travel to places that aren't particularly comfortable. Put myself in uncomfortable, difficult positions. Like, it could even be learning a new skill that's challenging. Basically, just challenging yourself. If you're sat on your ass just playing video games, drinking beer all day, being in a state of comfort, you're not going to generate that level of resilience and strength. So when things do go wrong, you're going to be you're not going to be in the right position to be able to deal with it. For me, I think it's traveling. Like moving to Vietnam was obviously a big challenge, and then trying to learn the language was a big challenge, and then after that getting some TV opportunities here, that was a big challenge as well.
That's how we met.
It's how we met, yeah. But I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, okay, let's just go with the flow and put myself into all these crazy different situations. And even though when I make those decisions, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, this is a way that will help me deal with grief in the future and stuff like that. That's not the way I'm thinking. But in reality, if you're always challenging yourself and putting yourself into difficult situations, getting out of your comfort zone, I think that's a really important way of strengthening your resilience and ability to deal with discomfort. I used to work at a summer camp in America, and I worked at a summer camp in Croatia as well. And I think the children there are so lucky because they get the opportunity to, and sometimes they complain about this and they moan about this, and that's natural. But in reality, they're so lucky because they're getting the chance to go and spend time with all these strangers, these other kids that they didn't know before, and do challenging activities, do hikes, having to deal with bugs, having to deal with the hot sun, having to deal with like physical activity and things like that. And they complain, they moan, that's what kids do. But at the end, after 2 weeks or 4 weeks, sometimes we have some 4-week sessions, the students, the kids are so grateful that they've been there. Some of them are crying because they don't want to leave. And you can tell every year when they come back, they get better at all the little things like making their bed, like sweeping the floor, like getting ready for the day. They put more effort into the activities, like on the hikes, they're fitter and stuff like that. And I think those little things like that, even if it's just a physical challenge or a daily habit, those kinds of things, when you accumulate them, develop your strength of character.
So always looking for little challenges in your life, and that will prepare you for harder challenges. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's very wise, Jordan, and thank you so much for being so you. You know that there's no other words, and I really appreciate and value your advice, knowing that you're still young, like you're 25 years old, and you have this knowledge and wisdom about life that sometimes people in the 40s, 50s do not have. And being through this experience gives you so much depth, and I'm sure you will have a lot to share and you will achieve a lot in your life. I have one last question for you. Another practical advice from you, please. According to you, Jordan, what can we do to become a better person daily, besides water?
Besides water?
Besides water.
I would say drink loads of water. That's number one. Drink loads of water. Wash your hands after you've... keep clean. Always make your bed. That's a good one. I think what we can do is, besides water, water's very important. That's a big rule. Hydrate, dominate. I think we can just be nice to others. It sounds cliche, but be compassionate and be kind to others, because you never know what someone else is going through. I sometimes see people being incredibly rude to strangers, like waiters and things like that. And I like to observe that and just see what's going on. Perhaps the person being rude is going through something really difficult. But also the person that they're being rude to for no reason, they could be going through something traumatizing. They could have just gone through a family death, or they could have, they could be overcoming an injury or an illness or a breakup or anything. It could be, we don't know what everyone's story is. And everyone, if you live long enough, everyone will go through difficult times. And so I think just being nice and compassionate and kind to strangers goes such a long way. And I do believe in karma as well. I believe that you give what you get what you give. So if you give out good energy, the universe will pay you back. And so I think that's a good rule to live by. Just be kind and compassionate to others. Doesn't mean you have to be a pushover. Doesn't mean you have to be lose your sense of confidence and assertiveness. I believe that you can be assertive and confident and a powerful person, but still be compassionate and kind to others. I think that's my mantra, really.
And I think it's something we learn even more being in Vietnam.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think the people here have taught me that, actually, very much so. Like, sometimes you meet the people who are financially incredibly poor. They've sold rice on the same shop corner for years. They share a bed with their child. They have a husband who's passed away. Something like that. I can think of several examples of people like this. And yet every day they're so kind to all the strangers that they meet every day. You just have to observe them. And like that's taught me a lot, So hospitable and kind, and for no other reason that it just makes them feel better, and the universe pays them back for it,
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It was amazing to have you. You did great. Come here. Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.